The best day of the year, week 1 Sunday NFL kickoff. Oh my gosh, we got so much to talk about. We have some obvious takeaways, aka Saquon Barkley. We have some under the radar takeaways looking at running back trends with their usage, guys that maybe we should be moving off our rosters. But before we get into it, go down there, drop a like in the live stream. We are closing in on 100,000 subscribers. There's a good chance we're there by Monday night. So, of course, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and we live stream every single day, answering as many questions as possible for 4 or 5 hours. So make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you're able to come out and get your questions answered in the live stream. And also, I'm going to go through and answer the first 200 comments on this video. So if you have a question, if you have a takeaway, if you want me to respond to it, go down there to the comment section. We'll answer as many as possible. But I don't want to waste your time. Let's dive right into this. Let's go with our first guy in Davante Adams here. I mean, with Davante Adams, dear God, the man's a black hole. I mean, I did not expect him to come out and increase the usage that he had from Green Bay. I mean, we were already saying, you know what, Adams is going to come to Las Vegas. This means we want nothing to do with Hunter Renfrow. This means that all of a sudden, with Davante Adams, he is probably going to be seeing a 25% team target share, really erasing all fantasy value from everyone else. But you know what? He did not see a 25% team target share. He didn't even have what he had in Green Bay over the past 3 years at 29%. Davante Adams had 17 targets today. Davante Adams saw 46% of the Las Vegas Raiders passing off. Oh my gosh. He almost had half the targets in Las Vegas here. 141 receiving yards, the receiving touchdown, clearly limiting guys like Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller to only 6 targets apiece. With Darren Waller, he did a little bit more with his targets than what we saw with Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow came out 6 targets, 3 receptions, 21 receiving yards. You can't start Hunter Renfrow. Davante Adams looks like he's still a fantasy stud. I was not expecting this kind of volume though. Now going down to our next lesson learned, this is something that I really wasn't expecting. And for everybody who's going out there and was drafting AJ Dillon in the 5th round, I thought, you know what? Instead of drafting AJ Dillon in the 5th, I think that's a little bit too rich. I'll take a step back. I'll take Kareem Hunt in the 9th. I thought I was being smart, but in reality, it was probably the dumbest thing ever because it looks like AJ Dillon may be the running back 1 in Green Bay. All this snap data is provided by PFF, but if we're looking at this, 37 snaps, Aaron Jones, 31 snaps, AJ Dillon. 29 routes run, Aaron Jones, 16 AJ Dillon. But you had AJ Dillon, 6 targets compared to Aaron Jones at 5. AJ Dillon, 10 carries compared to Aaron Jones at 5. And AJ Dillon was getting the work at the goal line. Oh my gosh. Looks like Aaron Jones was not the player we thought he was in the 2nd round. I mean, our strategy in fantasy football drafts this year was, hell, let's grab the elite level wide receiver round 1. Then we could find that nice running back value in the 2nd. Pair up like Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones. Pair up Stephon Diggs, Aaron Jones if we're playing on underdog. But, oh dear God, it looks like AJ Dillon is going to make Aaron Jones almost obsolete in Green Bay. And we know that week 1 is going to be the exact same of what we have rest of season. What we need to be doing here is overreacting. Obviously, I'm joking. Maybe Aaron Jones is a bounce back next week, but this is what we're looking at week 1. And what we're also looking at week 1, a little bit under the radar here, is we're getting some serious regression with Austin Ekeler. Now with Ekeler, I know we were hated on because we said that he had some serious red flags. We were looking at the historical usage for Austin Ekeler, looking at the fact that he was not going to score 20 touchdowns again, looking at the fact that they wanted to use him as a pseudo-committee running back. I know we got hate for it, but if we go through and break this down and look at Austin Ekeler versus Joshua Kelly and Sony Michel in this offense, Ekeler, 34 snaps, the other running backs, 33. Routes run, Ekeler, 15, the other running backs, 18. Targets, Ekeler 3, the other guys 2. Carries, Ekeler 15, the other guys 11. Now, we still had Ekeler ranked as an elite level running back because he is still going to get a lot of work as a pass catcher in Los Angeles, and he is still going to be playing in a very effective offense. But at the end of the day, looks like what we had from Austin Ekeler last year may be very hard to repeat if all of a sudden we have this large of a role where it is almost like Eckler's a 50-50 back in this backfield. And now let's go down to our next lesson learned, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles are legit. I mean, we have Philadelphia coming out here, putting up 1,000,000 points on the board. And what's really funny is Jalen Hurts does not throw a single passing touchdown. We have Miles Sanders, 13 carries, 96 rushing yards in the rushing touchdown. Jalen Hurts, 17 carries, 90 rushing yards in the rushing touchdown. Gainwell gets a rushing touchdown. Boston Scott gets a rushing touchdown. Now, 4 total rushing touchdowns, 216 total rushing yards for the Philadelphia Eagles. And not only did Jalen Hurts look great, but A.J. Brown is him. A.J. Brown is Timothy. A.J. Brown, whatever you want to say, A.J. Brown is it. Coming out, 10 receptions, 155 receiving yards. Devonta Smith had nothing with his 4 targets, even though Devonta Smith played more snaps than A.J. Brown here. Dear God, I mean, we always said A.J. Brown was a top 5 receiver from a real life perspective, but I didn't think the situation was that great in Philadelphia because, hell, you had Dallas Goedert, you had Devonta Smith, but A.J. Brown's looking at Devonta Smith as his little brother right now. Dear, 155 receiving yards for A.J. Brown compared to Smith sitting at 0. Now let's go down to our next lesson learned. It looks like Mike Williams is maybe going to be the volatile wide receiver that we thought he was coming into the season. Going back to what we said with Mike Williams, last year at the beginning part of the year, he had a 5-week stretch where he was used as the Alpha X wide receiver in Los Angeles, where he was commanding 10 targets a game, and he was the wide receiver 2 behind Cooper Kupp. And for that reason, a lot of people are drafting Mike Williams as a top 12, maybe the wide receiver 13, wide receiver 14, a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 in fantasy this year. We took a step back. We said, you know what? Keenan Allen's the guy who's averaged 10 targets a game over the past 5 years. With Mike Williams, outside of that 5-game stretch he had at the very beginning of 2021, this is a wide receiver that's been used as a primary deep threat option for the Los Angeles Chargers, where he clears out space underneath for these other guys to draw targets. And Mike Williams today had 4 targets. That's the same as DeAndre Carter, Keenan Allen, who left in the second quarter. Keenan Allen was going to crush. Don't you worry about that. Gerald Everett, Trey McKinney. Now, at the same time, I don't want to come out here and say, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so with Mike Williams, because since Keenan Allen's injured, dealing with a hamstring injury, and this team plays Thursday night against the Kansas City Chiefs, who knows? Maybe Mike Williams goes up, throws 30 points on the board, because Mike Williams is that volatile wide receiver with a very low floor and a high ceiling, like we said he was. Now, let's go down to our next lesson learned. Everybody knows this. Saquon Barkley is back. 51 out of 60 snaps here for the New York Giants. You had 17 out of 22 carries, and you had 8 targets for Saquon Barkley this week. There were 20 total pass attempts in New York. You had 20 total pass attempts in New York, 8 of them going to Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is the running back 1 for the New York Giants and the wide receiver 1 for the New York Giants. I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson left this game hurt. Kadarius Toney only played 7 snaps. I mean, if you look at the box score, it looks like Kadarius Toney got hurt as well, not only Wan'Dale Robinson. But no, it's looking like maybe this coaching staff, Brian Daboll, doesn't really have a plan to use Kadarius Toney. Maybe Toney's going to be a player that we need to be on the lookout for. Maybe this is someone that ends up getting traded later on in the year. I don't know what happened here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did leave the game early with injury, and I don't know, but I can't find any of those reports. Just looks like this coaching staff's maybe not a Kadarius Toney fan, and Saquon Barkley should be getting approximately 1,000,000 targets this season. But now let's go over to our next lesson learned. I don't even know if we need to talk about this. Justin Jefferson's good at football. Okay, he had 11 targets, 9 receptions, almost 200 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. We talked about there being 4 wide receivers that had it in the range of outcomes to possibly get to 2,000 receiving yards this year with Kupp, Diggs, Chase, and Jefferson. Looks like Jefferson may get there. I mean, with this pace, he's getting there with this pace. But of course, that's not likely. But our next lesson learned is the interesting tight ends that we thought had upside at the very end of fantasy football drafts, in reality, are garbage. Cole Kmet, 0 receptions. Irv Smith Jr., 0 receptions. David Njoku, 1 reception, 7 receiving yards. Isaiah Likely, I never liked him. I know a lot of other people did. 0 receptions. I don't know what to say, ladies and gentlemen. This is why we went through and made that video earlier on in the offseason. We want to be going with an elite level tight end. I think that y'all know that every single time you ask me, oh, Mason, how would I make this roster better? Oh, yeah, let's go trade for an elite level tight end. Let's go get Kelsey. Let's go get Andrews, even if Andrews didn't have a great day today. But still, we want that elite level tight end, or we don't invest anything at all into the position, and we just roll with what we have off the waiver wire. So if we started Cole Kmet this week, if we started Irv Smith Jr. and we had a total of 0 receptions, I think we hit the waiver wire. I think we go look at Higbee with 11 targets in Los Angeles this week. I think we go hit the waiver wire. We look at Robert Tonyan in elite level offense in Green Bay. So it looks like these may not be the guys. But now our next lesson learned is something that we kind of knew. You do not want to be relying on any running back in New England. We said that this was going to be potentially a 3-man committee looking at the history of Bill Belichick. And I thought that you really didn't have the potential for either Dameon Harris or Ramondre Stevenson to become a true 3-down bell cow. 22 snaps for Dameon Harris, 20 snaps for Ty Montgomery, and 14 snaps for Ramondre Stevenson. None of these running backs saw half the snaps this game. You can't start a single running back for the New England Patriots. Now, of course, this team got down big time against the Miami Dolphins early on, so it's not super predictive of what we have going forward, but it's very difficult to look at any of these guys as someone that we need to be putting in our lineups weeks 2, week 3, week 4, outside of maybe an injury to one of the players. But now our next lesson learned, something else that we kind of knew. Here, you do not start a single pass catcher in Cleveland. 147 passing yards for Jacoby Brissett and 217 total rushing yards in this offense. We said it going into the week. I just want to double down with Amari Cooper. He was interesting in high-stakes best ball tournaments where we're looking to optimize for weeks 15, 16, 17 because we all have Deshaun Watson elevating this passing offense later on in the year. But Amari Cooper is not someone you can start with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. Nobody in the passing game in particular for the Cleveland Browns you can start. Really just the running backs. And now someone that I kind of threw the towel in on, said, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily like him. I think he's overdrafted, or at least he was over the past few weeks of the fantasy football offseason. Maybe you could start him week 1 because he looks like a guaranteed starter. Looks like I was wrong. It looks like with Dameon Pierce, not a guaranteed starter. Looks like Rex Burkhead is the starting running back here in Houston. I mean, if you just check the box score, you'd also think that, hell, did Dameon Pierce get hurt this game? Because you had 20 snaps played for Dameon Pierce. You had 48 snaps for Rex Burkhead. And in my opinion, more importantly, you had 27 routes run for Rex Burkhead. 5 routes run for Dameon Pierce. Pierce has absolutely no role whatsoever as a pass catcher. Of course, we look to expand the role of Dameon Pierce as a rookie later on in his rookie season, and we expect the dusty old veteran in Rex Burkhead to have a smaller and smaller role in Houston. But at the same time, like Dameon Pierce looks like someone you cannot think about starting anytime soon. And now I think our last lesson learned is Travis Etienne may just be fancy J.D. McKissick. Etienne is someone that I liked. I mean, back when we thought James Robinson was not making it back from the torn Achilles, I was calling him DeAndre Swift. We were saying, don't draft Swift in the second. Let's get Etienne at the 3-4 turn. But clearly, now it looks like James Robinson does have a very large role here. I know we have a lot of people saying, oh, let's go through, let's buy low on Travis Etienne. Maybe you want to do that. Etienne looked like he was the guy early on, but he fumbled going into half. And once he fumbled, then in the second half of the game, James Robinson completely took over. The snaps were 36 snaps for Etienne, 34 for James Robinson. You had 12 carries for James Robinson, 4 carries for Etienne. And what I'm very concerned about, and what we've said all offseason, is I'm concerned that James Robinson is the red zone running back in Jacksonville. Because if you're drafting Travis Etienne to be the next Aaron Jones, to be the next DeAndre Swift, we are looking for every single target out of the backfield and every single touch inside the red zone. If those touches that we thought were going to go to Travis Etienne inside the red zone are actually instead going to James Robinson, we should be pretty concerned here. But I think that's all we got for this video. Of course, thank you so much for being a part of the vlog, supporting the channel. I'm going to end this here, go dive a little bit deeper with these players, come up with some buy low candidates, come up with some sell high candidates for us to go through and make some moves later on in the week. But of course, if you have not done so already, go down there, subscribe to the channel. We're about to hit 100,000 subscribers. And also, drop that like. Go to the comment section if you have any questions whatsoever, because I will be answering the first 200 comments on this video. But thank you again. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day.